All right, so now task number 3 is we're gonna deploy the image that we just pushed to Dockerhub into our Docker host, right? And first here, I'm just showing you how you can SSH into it, and this is only gonna work if you're using our environment. But if you're using your own EC2 instance, then that's gonna be a little bit different, right? So it's probably gonna be a public IP if you're working from a local machine. So just bear in mind, you just need to SSH to the instance. So let me just do that quickly. I'm actually gonna open a new terminal, so I have both of them. And two. First thing is just to run, hello world. This is just to make sure everything is working. I'm not gonna run it now, but then what we need to do later after that is to pull the image, right? Okay, so to pull an image from Dockerhub all the way here to my instance, I do Docker pull. And remember that you need to specify the Dockerhub username /ddfe. And one thing to note here is that, so this repo that I have is public, right? But when I push to it, I had to authenticate. But now that I'm pulling, I don't have to. And the reason for that is that even though the repo is public, I'm the only person that has write access to my account. That's why I need to log in when I'm pushing. But for pulling, this is like a public GitHub repo, so everyone should be able to clone it, right? And that's the reason why I don't have to log in when I'm pulling. Okay, so I have everything here, so it's already downloaded. And next, we need to run that image. Notice that even though so there are two ways. If you run Docker run, yeah, so if you run Docker run and you don't have the image locally, it's gonna pull for you. So you don't necessarily need to do a Docker pull and then Docker run. You can just do Docker run directly, and if it's not there, Docker's gonna pull for you, which is nice. And all right, so now let me just do Docker run and -d. So -d is like in detached mode, which means background. So -d and then the name of the image. And you see that I don't see any output. And if I do Docker ps to list the containers running, what I can do is do Docker logs to get the logs of the container. And this is gonna retrieve the logs until then. If you want to keep watching the logs, you can use -f. So -f is it's like tailing, right? So it's gonna tail the logs. So, but here it's done, so it's compiled successfully. If I do Docker ps, it's still running. And then the next thing we need to do is to open this website to see this interface. Now, for us to open this, I need to obtain the public IP address of my instance. There are two ways you can do that very easily. So one of them is AWS has a metadata API that contains a lot of information about your instance, including the public IP. But for me, one of the easiest way is to just curl an address called efconfig, which is a Unix command .co. That's going to return the IP address of my instance. So I can copy this and see what's going to happen. So it's supposed to be on port 8080. So there is nothing running there. We cannot access the website. Now let's take a look at why. So if I do a Docker ps, we see that under ports, there is nothing here. Right? It's a little bit hard to see, but basically ports is in this part here. So there's nothing, which means that there's no port allocated for the container. So the traffic is not able to actually go in there. So what we need to do is rerun the container exposing port 8080. So I'm basically just gonna stop the container and then remove it. And let me bring up the command again. So Docker run. If you want to expose the port, what you can do is -p, and then with -p, you basically have the host port and the container port. Right. So if you want the host port to be something different than the container port, you do host port : and container port. If I want them to be the same, you can do like, for example, 8080 : 8080. So the traffic will come to the instance on port 8080, and then it's going to go into the container, and the container's port 8080. So let me run that, and I just want to make sure that break. I don't think it will, but just in case. Okay, compile successfully. Now, if I do a Docker PS, we see something a little bit different. So we see 0000, 8080, and then there is a little arrow, 8080, right? So that means the port is allocated and we're able to access the container from outside the instance. One thing I remember that happened during the event, so someone had, instead of 000, they had 127.0.0.1. And if you have 127.0.0.1, that means the container is only going to accept, or the instance is only going to accept traffic coming within the instance, right? So traffic from outside will not be able to enter the instance. That's why you need to specify, or if you don't specify anything, which was my case, it's gonna say 0000, which means every IP address. So that's why we'll be able to access it. So if I reload this, and there you go. So that's our website. Let's come back here and see if there's anything else. I don't think so. I think it was just loading the website. All right, and then for us to obtain the flag, so this is task number 3, what we need to do is we need to bring up the developer console and then go to network. So let me just reload this, and then I'm gonna click on login. And all right, so basically when we click on login, the front end is trying to talk to the back end. But if you analyze the network traffic, we see there is a post which is failing, and the address is a little bit weird, right? So you've got backend underscore IP 7777. So here we're supposed to have the backend IP, which we haven't worked on the backend yet, but the flag was basically to obtain the IP, the IP address, or the DNS name and the port. So the answer for this, the flag would be backend underscore IP : and then the port. Coming back there were 2 hints. If you needed, one of them is to how to obtain the instance public IP, and the other one is to how to make it accessible via the internet. Right, so it's dev slope CTF. So that's the correct flag for test number 3.